everyone, and we're back with a bonus edition actually for the director interview series, just so that you guys can have like a little bit more, just so you can have like a little bit more about the ad hoc committee. So background guide at this point has already been released. So, Fred, how are you?
Still doing great, actually.
Still doing great, yeah.
It's been a couple months, but I'm excited to be back here once again.
All right, awesome. So why don't you tell me a little bit now about the committee?
Yeah, first of all, I'm really excited that the background guide is now out and that you guys had an opportunity to hopefully see it. This is a committee that I thought about a couple of years ago already when I was Secretary General of Flcs, because I suddenly realized having secretariat meetings, preparing committees, planning out the conference, this resembles a sort of grand scheme edition of a Model UN committee. And I thought, is there actually a way to make it just about small enough to do in a weekend? And that's how we came up with Muniking. It's supposed to be a little bit of hyperbole and satire of Model UN, and we're going to have fun with it. But at the same time, it's also a little bit of a tribute I want to give to Model UN, because I had such a blast doing it for 4 years. And this type of conference that Muniking is will probably never exist, but I wanted it to be just really extravagant, really fun, and give the delegates as many resources as possible, and the secretariat to plan out this huge event.
And like, what would you say like specifically kind of like inspired you to like pick like this committee idea? Was it like the whole like secretariat thing, or?
That was part of it, yes. And I also realized that this is obviously a very unusual committee, running a Model UN conference within a Model UN conference. It's a bit out there, of course, but that's, I think, what the ad hoc committee is supposed to be about. I think the biggest mistake you can make as an ad hoc director is to make the committee boring.
Right.
It's not even so much about whether it ends up being a great committee. I've competed in a few ad hoc committees, and some of them weren't that good, but they were always ambitious, they were always creative, and there was never a dull moment throughout the weekend. And a lot of the delegates that we're hopefully going to get are going to be pretty experienced and have done Model UN before. And they will expect the committee to be fast. They will expect there to be a lot of crises, unusual elements. And that is something that I really hope Logan, my crisis coordinator, and I can provide for them.
Yeah. And what do you think is going to set like this committee aside from other things you've directed in the past?
Mainly that running a Model UN conference obviously limits the crisis scope a little bit. We all know that it's pretty popular to try and betray and assassinate people behind the scenes. Obviously, that is not going to happen in this committee. I don't want secretariat members killing each other, poisoning their drinks, and those things. That obviously doesn't make sense. So it's going to be very different in the sense that I want crisis notes to be creative, sure, but also very much in line with their portfolio powers. And there are also going to be a couple of surprise elements. There's a reason why I asked everybody for their phone number, just a heads up. We're going to take advantage of that. And I'll explain a lot of that during the first committee session, obviously, but we're going to rely on technology quite a bit. I'm hoping to involve a lot of different people that I met in Model UN, people that aren't just on the University of Florida team. So it's something I'm really looking forward to, and I hope that that is something that delegates will take advantage of and really work with throughout the weekend.
Yeah, and what would you say makes for a good crisis?
Just, I guess, a sense of being unpredictable. You don't want your crisis to become boring. You don't want people to sit in a committee and say, oh, I've done this before, I've seen this type of committee before. And a lot of committee topics have been overused. A lot of times, crisis directors are unwilling to bend their plan throughout the weekend because they're very set in stone, and they're afraid to sort of go with delegate ideas, because that could potentially take the committee in a completely different direction than they envisioned. And I think it's very important that when delegates have great ideas, use their imagination, that is something you use as a crisis staff. Partially also because crisis committees tend to be really quick-paced, and they can teach you a lot of skills that you need in real life. crisis management, compromising,
Yeah.
articulating a point well, playing devil's advocate even. And those are some things that I hope all the delegates will be able to use in that committee.
Yeah. And what advice would you give for any of the delegates that are watching now?
I would say, read up a little bit about where Model UN came from, what the original purpose of Model UN was, and try to think a little bit about what do you think goes into a Model UN conference, the Model UN conferences that you've been to. What has been exciting about them? What makes you come back to a Model UN conference? Is it the socials? Is it the committees? Is it the people you meet? Ultimately, I want all those things to go into this committee.
Mm-hmm.
And I want people to really make Muniking the best conference it can possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that's going to work is if they compromise on some things and pour as many good ideas as they possibly can into this committee. So I hope that they come in with some things prepared already and that they're always willing throughout the weekend to add more to that long list of plans that they have.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope that this kind of like helps you get a better idea of like what we're going to be expecting this year. So thank you guys, and as usual, I'll be posting all the social media links, and we'll be seeing you soon.